If you were even around for the early 2000s, then you'll probably be somewhat familiar with Bungie's timeless masterpiece, investigating the mysterious Halo as a Master Chief, first picking up a story that would stay with you for the rest of your life. Now that might sound amazing, but playing video games these days is far from. For instance, taking a nice evening stroll in Night City is constantly ruined by, well, anything and everything under the sun. When will we just go back to the good old games like open season for the Xbox 360? I'm so convinced that the majority of Microsoft's wealth originated from that game's sales. My point is that pretty much all the big game franchises that started way back in the early 2000s were amazing, but as they went on, all of them seemed to drop off at almost the exact same point on the timeline. So what's going on here? Whatever it is, it was so big that even Halo couldn't escape it. Well, my dear Homo sapien, kick back and relax as we dive into an ominous question. What happened to video games? Don't forget to subscribe. In 1951, we got what could be considered the first video game ever, OXO. A simple game based off of tic-tac-toe, but it wasn't until the 70s that arcades became a thing. Sadly, little Jimmy of the 70s wouldn't be able to play Goofy's Funhouse in the original PS because it wasn't out yet. Thoughts and prayers, little Jimmy. And when I say it became a thing, I meant become part of our culture. Though at the time it wasn't playing any big or monumental role in the Western Hemisphere yet. But as time goes on... as time went on, the attraction to video games got bigger and heavier. Soon enough, we had the first PS, and then later on we got Xbox and a whole bunch of stuff from Nintendo, whatever, allowing the average person to take an arcade into their home. I was going to say house and home at the same time. The console was born. I know I'm really skipping a lot here, but my point is that as video games slowly got into the average person's household, the part they played in society, their influence, their popularity grew. And like all of economics, with this newfound excitement and interest came a demand for something more and better and faster and stronger. Okay. And with this demand came competition from neighboring companies. If PlayStation were to make a new console or get a really popular game on their system, then Xbox would be right there fighting to compete. And the same vice versa. Soon enough, I'm talking like early 2000s and before, some of the most well-known and famous video game franchises were born. Halo, Final Fantasy, Zelda, Mario, GTA, Resident Evil, Call of Duty, Battlefield, Metal Gear, and so many more. All of these different companies had first established what would go on to be modern-day legends. So not only were the companies that produced the consoles competing with each other, but the guys that were making the games were as well. As you probably guessed, the games I just listed blew up. Halo gave Xbox such a jump in interest that it actually had a fighting chance with PlayStation, Mario just got a stinking movie, Call of Duty is still pumping out stuff, and GTA is possibly getting its 6th installment within the next 459 years, maybe. Now, whether these games had a perfect run or not is a very different story, but the point is that over the journey, these worlds were established and built up. But then, roughly 5 to 7 years ago, something happened. Something very interesting happened. Hello? Do you know Kung Fu? No? I know some stuff like this. Wah! Oh my, very impressive. Is that the spinning death dragon? Wait, really? It is? Really? No. Hey guys, just subscribe. Something very interesting indeed happened. Between the years of roughly 2015 and on to the modern era, we've seen most of the games I mentioned before start to crumble. And the interesting part of this is that they all started to hit at once. Not only did the already established video game franchises start to drop off in quality, I'll talk about that specifically in a second, but the games in general just seem to be lacking. We're seeing more and more of these AAA produced games lacking basic quality and bombing it when it comes to the reviews. Cyberpunk 2077 is a great example of this. Why is it that an almost a decade in the making game created by a company who, based off of their earlier work, seems to know what they're doing, is not only still the greatest example of poor quality, but the reviews and first experience alone is enough to keep people from even trying this game? I grew up on the trailers. I was so excited for this game. Now it's gonna take a lot for me to try it. I mean, if they lower the prices like $1 or a cent, then I would definitely be interested because I'm just cheap like that, Now, if we turn our attention to Overwatch 2, we'll see another very interesting and good example of this. It's actually great because Overwatch was first released in mid-2016 or so, right around the same time that the gaming industry took a swan dive off a cliff, but this game was actually good. Well, hey, you know. Produced by a AAA company, this game did not follow the, at the time, newfound trend. It wasn't until October of 2022 that we finally saw Overwatch take the same route. So why? Both of these games are really good examples of this fall in quality, but why did it happen? What caused this? As I started the video out with, the video game industry is a business, and a business's purpose is to create money. So when you have a whole bunch of people competing for a limited amount of players or an audience, you start to see new and innovative ways to grab the audience's attention, and also a buttload of stuff behind the scenes that doesn't always make it to the headline. You see, not only will Call of Duty add new and exciting features to attract the consumer's eye, but behind the scenes are methods and practices that won't see the light of day, well, as fast. The kind of stuff you hear about years after the fact. Now, this is all normal and expected. It's the competition and desire from the fans for more that push these AAA companies to create something with more flair than the other game next to it. But also, companies are always looking for a way to cut corners. Because if they can reduce the amount of time or money spent on a project, that only means more profit, which means more money. And if a company is designed to make money, then this is exactly what they're going to be doing. So with that said, let's now apply this to our question. What happened to video games? We see the companies competing with each other pretty easily. The whole Battle Royale thing spread so fast because there seemed to be an audience for it, actually a pretty big audience. And if there's a possibility to make a buttload of money, then you already know the AAA companies are going to be there doing it. And so Call of Duty, Warzone, Apex Legends, and a whole bunch of other little BRs out there were born. Mantling is a new feature in video games that actually really helps improve the gameplay. This is something that wasn't really around back a few years ago, but as with competition, it was only a matter of time until this positively rated feature was just common. You were behind if your game didn't have it. CD Projekt's Red Cyberpunk 2077 is a great example of this. Don't be deceived by the fact that it almost took a whole decade to get this game out there. You'd think that in all that time they'd have something beyond possible expectations by the time the due date was up. Quite the contraire. Later on down the line, after the aftermath of this, that's a weird sentence, we find out that the last year or so, the team in charge of this game, that was also sabotaged from the start, just watch my video on it, was rushed into getting this game out there. They had to reschedule the project multiple times, and on top of that, the team that working on this game had to work overtime, and I hear that most of them didn't even have days off toward the end of production. Cyberpunk 2077 wasn't necessarily a bad game. The story is decent and the world is intriguing, but it was mainly the bugs that destroyed the excitement and reputation of this game. Now, Cyberpunk's situation is based off of quality in a very literal sense, but Overwatch is a different story. The original Overwatch was a product of another time, and as time went on, the competition between AAA companies led to the norm being in different places. Overwatch simply wasn't compatible to compete with modern video games. So Blizzard updated Overwatch, and what we got is probably the most drastic change in ratings in the entire history of this solar system. Like, honestly, I dare you to go find it on any website, app, or console, all of it, and try to find a 3-star review for Overwatch 2. I dare you. I also dare you to subscribe because, you know, that helps stuff. Heck, it took me like 6 minutes of scrolling through reviews to find a 2-star review on Xbox. What happened to this game? Try to think of how competition works with the AAA companies like a bunch of weeds growing with each other. As one starts to grow left, the others will go follow it. And as another starts to bend downward, they'll all follow too. And where those vines have grown now today is right into quality hell. How can we cut as many corners as possible? Because that would mean more profit, and we're a business designed to make money. So let's start cutting everything way back. Alright, this multi-million-dollar project needs about 2 more years of production before it's even finished. Well, I think we can do this in 4 months, guys. And you know what? Because we're a business, and a business is all about making money, let's just throw in a battle pass, some loot boxes, about 57 paywalls for terrible, low-quality, lifeless content anyway, and, I don't know, punish the players who do not buy everything in the game. Oh no, our game got released and bombed with the reviews because the quality is so low and everyone hates it? Maybe they'll like our other game coming out in 2 weeks. And of course, if one AAA company tries this, then the others are right behind it, swan diving right into the same pool without even checking to see how deep it really is. Simply put, in the high-intensity environment that is the AAA company battlegrounds, everybody is looking for an even better way to make money. It just so happens that you can increase your profit if you spend less on making the game in the first place and release the game earlier. It also just so happens that if you cut the oh-so-necessary production time too short, that the quality of the game is affected. And it also just so happens that adding in a battle pass or pointless loot boxes of some sort and dumping in tons of low-quality and, once again, pointless cosmetics and an infinite amount of paywalls significantly affects the enjoyability of a game. While CD Projekt Red cuts corners and releases a game years before it should have been, Blizzard decided to modernize one of their most iconic worlds by adding in all the scummy and low-life methods used by the other AAA companies to make as much money as possible, no matter the cost. Now, when you combine these two, you get the average video game, where making as much money as possible is the one and only goal of a video game, not creating something magical like Bungie did all the way back in 2001 with Halo CE, or like Larian Studios did with Baldur's Gate 3. Now, I know that this is not the only reason that games these days have dropped off. This is a multi-layered infestation here, but there's a slice, my dear viewer. Well, what do you think? I hope to have some more videos coming out soon. I've just been so busy lately that it's hard to sit there staring into a computer screen for like 14, 17 hours straight. But hey, I thank thee for watching. Godrith waves goodbye. His microphone isn't working right now, but play Elden Ring. It's the best game ever. I love you guys. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And remember, life is short. Play great games. You know, just the other day, I remembered Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, and I wondered, where the heck is this game? In my 2022 Games I'm Excited For video, I talked mainly about Elden Ring, but also Suicide Squad. That video was made over 2 years ago, and where is this game? So I did a wee bit of research, and I realized that this